You suffer, but why? Is it to prove something to someone, to be seen, recognized, or simply because life demands your blood before offering you meaning? Pain without direction becomes a burden. It bends you, empties you, but when embraced with clarity, pain is no longer the enemy, it becomes the teacher. There is a brutal difference between suffering and suffering with purpose. One breaks us, the other builds us. How many times have you tried to escape pain, drowning it in distractions, urgency, excuses? But true silence is not found in escape, it's found in mature acceptance, in the darkest moments. What sustains you isn't noise, it's surrender, silent, intentional, deeply conscious. Have you considered that perhaps what wounds you is precisely what's shaping you? Maybe what feels like injustice today is the rough sketch of your virtue being carved in cold blood. The stone, before becoming an altar, must first be cut. Today, we uncover the Stoic message behind one of the Bible's harshest, most solemn and transformative scenes, the crucifixion, not as a religious symbol, but as a philosophical code, an invitation to inner mastery amid external collapse. Stay with me until the end, because this story isn't just Christ's, it's yours too. And if it stirs something deep within you, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, every narrative is a mirror, a silent call for those seeking strength, without needing to shout. It was still dawn when he was taken. The air carried the weight of fear and the metallic scent of freshly spilled blood. There were no trumpets, no justice, only the dragging of feet and the clinking of chains. Not as a king, but as a condemned man, a weary body, a serene face. Jesus walked not as one defeated, but as one who understood. The crowd, hungry for spectacle, gathered with ravenous eyes. The soldiers, hardened by the routine of violence, shoved him with contempt. And Pilate, the symbol of power, hesitated. He saw something different. There's something that didn't fit the usual logic of authority. Yet, he washed his hands. Truth stared him in the face, but he chose to look away. Before the empire, Jesus remained silent. He didn't ask for help. He didn't accuse. He didn't beg for justice. And that silence said everything. More than 1,000 impassioned speeches. It was the silence of one who understands pain, but is not defined by it. The silence of one who knew there was a greater purpose, and that not everyone would understand. This acceptance wasn't passive, it was active, a choice. A strength that doesn't need to prove itself. He faced every glare, every spit, every sentence as one who had already overcome within himself need to be understood, as one who had abandoned the illusion of external control. His eyes held no hatred, only a firm and painful acceptance, an acceptance that wounded more than any sword, because it disarmed hate-filled hearts. It disarmed those expecting resistance. It disarmed those who sought to destroy him from within. And yet, within he remained whole. Then came the weight of the cross, not just wood, a symbol, a sentence, the world's verdict on one who chose to love to the end. He carried it as one who bears what he doesn't deserve, yet accepts anyway. With each step, his body faltered, but his soul did not. The crowd watched merciless, and no one reached out a hand. It was easier to point, to judge, to mock. No one wanted to carry that pain, but he did. He chose to, not because he was a masochist, but because he knew suffering, when embraced with awareness, transforms. Every fall was a decision. Every time he rose, a silent affirmation of purpose. The pain wasn't just physical, it was the pain of abandonment, betrayal, loneliness, the pain of knowing he could free himself, but chose not to. He had the power, but he didn't use it, because on that path of pain, there was something greater than relief, call and meaning. And when pain gains meaning, it ceases to be punishment and becomes a path. He didn't resist fate. He didn't curse circumstances. He simply walked in silence, in steadiness, in clarity. His body bent under the weight, but his spirit stood tall at the top of the hill. The cross was raised. The sky seemed darker. Nature itself seemed to pause. The nails pierced not just his hands, but human history itself. And yet, no scream. No curse. No hatred. Only a whisper that echoes through centuries. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Words born not of despair, but of compassion. Because even at the peak of suffering, he never lost clarity. Even suspended between heaven and earth, he taught. The crucifixion wasn't just an act of sacrifice. It was an act of self-mastery. a conscious choice not to react, but to remain. The cross was his school, his pulpit, his platform. His body bled, but his soul remained whole. There, exposed, vulnerable, wounded, he was freer than anyone watching, because his freedom came from within. He had achieved what Marcus Aurelius called the fortress of the soul, what Epictetus understood as mastery over what is within our control. And here lies the great lesson. Pain is not the end. Suffering is not failure. Humiliation is not defeat. All of it, when accepted with purpose, becomes virtue. Clarity. Transcendence. Jesus didn't flee from pain. He inhabited it, and by inhabiting it, he redeemed it. This story, though wrapped in religious symbols, carries a philosophical depth that resonates with every seeker of meaning, that it speaks of enduring the unbearable without losing dignity, of maintaining inner control when everything crumbles, of choosing steadiness over despair. It's the portrait of what the Stoics called virtue's moral excellence: steadfastness in pain, self-mastery in the face of the world's injustice. This isn't just about sacrifice, it's about inner victory, and that victory, silent, mature, is available to all who choose not to react as victims, but as builders of themselves. The cross he carried is the same one we all bear, in different forms, but the question remains: what do we do with it? Do we try to cast it aside, complain about its weight, or do we carry it with dignity, understanding that the burden is often the road to freedom? By transforming suffering into compassion, pain into wisdom, and death into total surrender, Jesus showed that what the world calls failure can, in truth, be a hidden triumph, a triumph of the soul over the ego, of awareness over reaction, of presence over despair. Everyone suffers, but to suffer with purpose is for the strong. Not the strong in appearance, the strong in spirit, as he was, as you too can be. This is the virtue of resilience. Not the stubborn resistance of those who refuse to yield out of pride, but the conscious resistance of those who understand reality and yet remain standing. To resist here is not to harden, it is to remain whole in the face of fragmentation. Christ on the cross is the living portrait of what Epictetus would call inner freedom. He could not control the insults, he could not stop the nails, he could not halt the injustice unfolding before everyone's eyes. But there was one thing he could control, and did, until the very end: his mind, his judgment, his response, his inner state. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Christ did not let external things disturb him, not because he was indifferent, but because he was free. The pain was real, but despair did not consume him. He did not seek escape. He did not wait to be understood. He accepted not as one who surrenders, but as one who understands that life is not meant to cater to our desires, but to reveal our essence. Seneca also reminds us, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." Christ did not suffer in anticipation. He did not despair over what was to come. He walked, step by step, carrying his cross, fully present in every moment, even the most painful, without wasting them in rebellion. This attitude resonates deeply with the heart of Stoic philosophy. Live in the present, act with virtue, accept fate. The cross, far from being mere punishment, became the stage for a deliberate choice. He could have asked for it all to stop. He could have freed himself, but he did not, because he understood that suffering, when embraced with clarity, purifies. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not just a pretty metaphor, it is a path, a silent map for times of collapse, and Christ, suspended between heaven and earth, embodied it. In its rawest form, body broken, but spirit whole, circumstances out of control, but soul at peace. True strength is not in eliminating pain, it is in preserving dignity amid it. This perhaps is the highest form of freedom, not reacting as the world expects, not allowing injustice to destroy who you are inside, not letting suffering strip you of what is most human: awareness. This is the virtue of resilience, not of those who fight against fate, but of those who honor it, and find meaning even in the stones. Along the path, Christ did not win by force. He won by mastery. He won by clarity. He won by understanding that life does not demand quick answers but eternal postures. And you, are you living your own silent Calvary? There may be no nails, but there are sharp words, no crowd, but there are condemning stairs, no visible cross, but a weight only you know the cost of carrying. How often have you been judged by people who barely understand the depth of what you feel? People who see your surface but don't grasp the effort it takes to remain firm inside. Perhaps life has placed a cross on your shoulders that you never asked for, a loss, a betrayal, a silence that screams when no one is looking. But the essential question is not why me? The question is, what are you doing with this cross? Are you carrying it with dignity, or dragging it with resentment? Are you resisting with steadiness, or searching for someone to blame to ease the pain? Because here is a bitter but liberating truth. It is not suffering that destroys us. It is the unconscious resistance to it, is the silence that troubles you. Actually, your preparation is this agonizing weight, this season where nothing seems to move, carving in you a strength only time will reveal. We often beg for pain to leave, but we forget it is the chisel that shapes what is raw within us. The more we fight it, the more it wounds us. But when we accept it, it transforms us. And what of that forgiveness you keep postponing? Who hurt you own? Do you still carry them in your chest as if suffering forever were your duty? Are you truly healing, or just nurturing a pain that is past but has become your identity? The question few dare to face is simple and cutting. Are you suffering with purpose, or just prolonging your own martyrdom? Because suffering is inevitable, but despair is a choice. Constant outrage is a choice. Rebellion against what cannot be changed is a choice. You don't have to become cold, but you can become firm. You don't have to become numb, but you can become deep. Pain, when accepted with clarity, matures. It teaches you to walk in silence, to listen more, to react less, to see that every person carries something invisible, and that compassion is a form of wisdom. You can keep running. You can blame others. You can pretend everything is fine while something inside you screams. Or you can choose to look at this cross and say, if this is the path, let me walk it with dignity, not to prove strength to others, but to rediscover yourself, whole, serene, transformed. Suffer with purpose, or you will suffer again, not because of the pain itself, but because of all it tries to teach you and you refuse to hear. The wise man does not choose the easiest path. He honors the path that was given to him, because he understands there is greater value in enduring with dignity than in escaping hastily. On the cross, Christ does not merely die, he reveals. He reveals what it means to endure without corruption. He reveals what it means to keep the heart pure when everything around becomes unjust, foul, and cruel. He teaches us to endure, to forgive, to maintain dignity, even in ruin. This is the strength that doesn't make headlines, the strength that doesn't need to raise its voice, the strength that doesn't flaunt itself, yet upholds the inner world of those who carry it. To master oneself, when all around seems out of control, that is the silent triumph. This is the victory the Stoics recognize as noble, and the wise call virtue. And it is this strength you are being called to find within yourself, not in the words of others, not in the world's approval, but in the silence of your spirit, where no one sees, and where everything is decided. You can keep searching for shortcuts, or you can finally pause, breathe, and understand that perhaps the path that challenges you most is the only one that transforms you. If this story has touched something deep within you, if it has reminded you of a wound not yet healed, or rekindled a flame you thought had gone out, consider following this channel. Here, we don't offer ready-made answers. We offer mirrors, reflections, silences that return you to yourself, because there is wisdom in pain, and there is redemption in those who face it with open eyes, a steadfast soul, and a heart at peace.